Hi, everybody, and welcome to the IGDA Foundation's monthly speaker series. I'm Kenna Lindsay, your host, and we are here with Sean Maggard from Ember PR. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm happy to have you here. Sean, if you could introduce yourself, share your name, your pronouns, and how long you've been working in games.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sean Maggard, he, him. I've been doing this for 20 years and very happy to be here. Thanks so much to Alyssa and the foundation for inviting me. It's a really important mission. Happy to share these thoughts here and to be a resource in the future.
And you brought an awesome presentation, so let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, so this is the indie launch countdown. Brief agenda here. The problem is your game's coming out next week. Marketing kept getting pushed for, all the best reasons for crunch, for bandwidth, for budget, your sanity. You needed a factory for marketing to build awareness, consideration, the great funnel that we're all aware of. You needed runway, which you don't have because it's happening in a week. But fortunately, you have a great pit crew. One of the great things about working with third parties on their content is you can provide them with the assets and the basics and what you're trying to do, and they can run with it and present it to their audience in a way that makes sense for them, and create really great pieces. So some misconceptions, is that if my game is great, everyone will show up on launch day. And we know that doesn't happen. There's so many games that launch on Steam every week, a lot of really amazing games that get missed. Um, Marketing can wait. It's great to get started. Really, as soon as you start developing your game, the best, advice that we've seen recently is build in public. I totally agree with that. Launch trailer equals marketing campaign. It does a lot of heavy lifting, but there's a lot of other levers you need to pull as well. Another misconception, PR just equals a press release. Of course, that's not true. There's a lot of other things going on we'll talk about. And then marketing can fix a rough launch. It's not true. Unfortunately, I've had quite a few indie developers come to us, saying their game launched last week or last month, and we do everything we can, but you only get to launch once. So the reality is that as we all know, attention is a scarce resource. Third-party relationships can pay off big, but they take time. Repetition and frequency helps you create mind share and affinity for you and your game. And the proof points add up, right? They lead to wish lists and comments and shares and YouTube videos or YouTube views. Algorithms, as we all know, across social media reward longevity and consistency. And runway matters, right? But we're just focused on this 1 week before your campaign. And then a disclaimer from me, there's so many different scenarios that games launch in, from genre, time of year, price, their visibility beforehand. This just covers a small, sort of fraction of some ideas, a week before launch. So I hope this is helpful. A quick plug for me. I'm the owner of Ember PR. We launched about 3 years ago, but I've 20 years experience, worked with a ton of different games and personalities, and launched hundreds of software and relaunched some as well, that have maybe fallen out of the zeitgeist, and we brought them back. And we like to say, we take your story and add our spark. So that's my quick plug. So, intro to PR. If you don't tell your story, someone else will, and they probably won't get it right. Press are looking for their audience for stories their audience will share over coffee or in Discord or Slack. So, give them something to talk about. Overall, our goal is to maximize volume squared. We think of volume, of course, in how noisy you can be, but also just in total volume of conversation. Um, PR is a great way to build reputation, credibility, and loyalty, leverage the incredible power of third parties, and to create demand for you and your product. The channels, press and creator relations, we treat them interchangeably. We talk to press and creators all the time. We give them embargoes. We suggest content. We, give them lots of assets. We work in video feeds, social feeds, and then also word of mouth. And that's a tough one to crack because there's all sorts of secret back channels, right? You have your group texts, you have your Discord with just your friends. We'd all like to get in there with our game and our messaging, and it's tough. But you can get there by helping to moving the needle and opening doors. So what moves the needle? Press and creator big hits, those will broaden reach and awareness. But the small placements are important too because those guys have really loyal followers and they listen to what the creator or press is talking to them about and suggesting to them. Social amplification obviously is very important. And then towards the end of the funnel, you have reviews both from press and creators, which leads to wish lists and sales. And so what opens those doors, we're going to talk about today: your story and product positioning, relevance, trusted comparisons, hooks, headlines and thumbnails, visual storytelling, and simplicity. Brief overview of the 5 steps, your 1 week before launch. So building your story and positioning. These are the questions to ask. Who is this for really? We'd love to say that this is before, any gamer on Steam, but it's really important to get very specific in terms of demographic. What are they playing right now? How much time do they have to play? And then who are you specifically? What's your background? How'd you come into game development? How'd you come across this specific game? What is your hook? Genre language is really important. Creating a trusted comparison: our game is like this, or our game plays like this. What problem are you solving? Maybe there's not enough games doing what your game is out there doing. Maybe it's a genre that hasn't been explored in a while and you're bringing it back. What's the main question that you're asking? That's your hook. And then what visual proves this? Most of the times, a lot of times, it's the trailer. Sometimes it could be screenshots and other things. At Ember PR, we always talk about finding the cheese pool. If we had one thing to show about the game, one thing to tell about the game, what is it? So it's memorable. And then why now? And for us, why now is we're launching next week. So this is a really great example I came across last week or a couple weeks ago. This is TJ is making tabletop tavern. He's got everything here. He has call to action. He has a description of the game. He talks about it in genre language. This is Total War scale battles, Slay the Spire run structure. He has his little hook here: may your ale stay full and your enemies distant. This was a really great trailer, but you can see how even if he had a screenshot, it's very clear what's going on here. You can see the art style. This is really exciting because it's in a tavern, but we're playing this fun tabletop game in a virtual world. But TJ has been at this for a while. He didn't start and get all those views and likes and reshares right away. He's been loading videos on YouTube for months, active on Steam, and he has a pretty active Discord as well. Um, so assets, trailers are critical, but cost and time prohibitive. You have to have a 3-second hook. Back in the day when we had trailers where you could sort of introduce the story, then introduce the characters, and sort of lead people on that journey. They don't have that time anymore. You have to get to your hook within the first 3 seconds. But one of the great things about video these days is that you have this great game that you just created, right? And the gameplay footage can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. You may not need custom animations. You may not need, custom music. Let your game explain itself. And then a lot of the channels that you'll be active in, including Reels and Blue Sky and Threads, there's a low expectation for production values. A lot of times people just want to see what the game is, understand what it's offering, get a little bit curious, and then go right to wish list or sales. And then dev diaries, I think, are really important. I don't think, as an industry, I don't think we spend enough time here. And then one thing that I wanted to point out, and we've done for clients in the past, is Twitch can be a really great shortcut to create a dev diary. Just get on for an hour, show gameplay, talk about context, talk about how you built it, and then you have a link to a really great dev diary that you can share out. But if you want to make a great game trailer, there's a lot of resources. My favorite is from Derek Liu. He has a huge course. It's linked here. He has a lot of great info. Starts you, from the beginning to the end. You don't need a lot of expense if you're doing it for yourself. You don't need a lot of software either. He's got a lot of tips and tricks. Screenshots are important, but less is more. Just also always make sure you're telling a story. Don't ever let a screenshot get out there without explaining like what's in it, what it's showing, what aspect of the game, what element of the game that you're trying to explain. So press releases are easy. They're not mysterious. They are important. I don't think they're dead, like a lot of people in PR say. I was on a flight to GDC actually a few years ago and was watching a guy next to me, and he was writing sheet music, and obviously on a completely different level in terms of art and craft. But a press release can be like sheet music for journalists because it speaks their language. Everything's in one place. They know where to go and to get what they need. Has your contact info in there. It's authoritative and official. It has a boilerplate. It has a quote, from you or from the executive. Um, and the elements are pretty easy. Big hero image, which can also just be your Steam header. Your headline, which is your purpose, the date, intro paragraph explains what you're doing, the quote, which gives the why and context. You always want to have a list of features, where to get it. And then the great thing about it is that once you have it, you can share it anywhere. You can share it, in a press kit. You can share it as a PDF. You can put it on your website. It's super handy. And the press kit is super easy because of this really awesome website called gamespress.com. Literally just email your press release here. It creates this beautiful layout. Screenshots are easy to download. They can get really great understanding of your game quickly, and you have a nice little URL that you can share anywhere you want. So step 5, your pitch. Researching press can be a challenge. There's a lot of services out there. They're quite pricey. But you want to be selective and strategic. And so a lot of times you'll just want to go to the source and search the type of games or the mechanics that are in your game and see who's talking about those similar games and get their emails. Are pretty easy to find these days individually. A lot of times if you just email, or sorry, a lot of times if you just Google their name plus email, it'll come up. A lot of press, want to be findable because they want to they want to get some great tips. There's also some really great Blue Sky starter packs. There's a link here. There's a few that focus on gaming media. There's some that focus on creators. A lot of them share their email address and their bios in other ways. You can reach out to them directly. You can also do an advanced search on Twitter. A lot of times, press at some point in the past have shared their email, so you can search their feed and find where they shared it and grab it. Muckrack is one of the expensive services, but they do keep a lot of their information online. It's just kind of hard to find. But if you Google, say, Muckrack and IGN, you can get a full list of everyone that works there. And then a link to some of their socials. And a lot of times their email is right there. Then I've also listed here a link to Metacritic sites. It's everyone, all the outlets and people that contribute to Metacritic. And then the Game Awards jury. It's fun to, look at, the decision makers for, who's winning all the awards every year and get some ideas on who to pitch there. And then finding creators. It's great to go to the source again, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, search for the genres, search for the games that are kind of like yours or games that you just love. See who's doing a great job, see who's engaging with their audience, see who has audiences that show up, regularly. And then there's this great website called Sully Gnome, and it breaks down creators, it breaks down talent agencies like Mythic and Expansion. You can search by game, you can search by platform, you can see what they played, when they played, you can see what games they were playing before and after a game, and see which games are kind of linked together via genre, or see maybe where audiences don't like a game. Maybe they're playing Diablo 4 and then started playing another game, they lost their audience completely. So some really great research that you can get from Selenium. Pitch, you have a sample here. These are super easy. Include your hook and question up front. Be very clear about, what it is that your game is offering. And then frame it in, hey, the reason I'm reaching out is because you're covering this game or this genre or this mechanic. Tell your story, give your name, what you do, why you're there. Uh, and then make the ask. We'd love for you to announce my launch date, watch my trailer, play the preview, and then some pointers. Keep it short and to the point. Make sure you make the ask. Don't be afraid, and make sure it's very clear what you want them to do. Again, you can link to your press kit or a really strong social post. Remember TJ's post from earlier. Don't use any attachments. Just try to get a base hit first. Don't need to include everything in the first email. There's always room to follow up later and tell them, a little bit more about your game or a little bit more about you. And curiosity always wins. If you're asking them for something or you want to develop a call to action, the whole idea is to create some curiosity so that they go, travel to your link, and help you out. Some easy social. Good post makes people stop scrolling. A great one makes them send it to a friend. Remember we talked about the back channels earlier? That's where this really comes into play. Clarity is the new clever. There's a few social media accounts that can pull off clever well, but clarity is a lot better thing to focus on, especially for indie developers. And since we only have a week, I would just focus on one hero post per platform. Contact everyone you know, mention in your Discord, try to build up the likes and the reposts, on that one post, so that it gets a lot of shares, gets a lot of visibility, becomes kind of a showpiece. And then pitch every show and expo if it's happening within this month. Obviously, we're heading into Summer Games Fest. There's a lot of other smaller shows and showcases are happening kind of around it. There's lists all over the place, but I've got some at the end of the presentation. To make sure your presence matches your story, be authentic. Again, curiosity wins. And then remember to tell a story. If you're posting about uh, a screenshot or a video, make sure that your audience understands the story. So, more than just, hey, here's my start menu. But you'd want to talk about like how you got to there, how you want people to feel when they're on the start menu, where you want them to look, or how you want them to interact with the game. Just make sure that you're not just putting up posts while you're building a public that just shows part of the process. Make sure that you communicate what the process is. And then I've got some asset guidelines here that will walk you through dimensions, pixels, how large they can be to help you get navigate through some of those social channels. And then final tips, find your voice. It's one of the main things that we help new and independent developers do. Sometimes we'll make two or three, dev videos or voiceover videos before they really find out like how they want to present themselves, what feels the most natural, what they feel like is moving the needle. Again, building a public is very important. It's a great way to build visibility. Just make sure you're always connecting storytelling to that. Also, I haven't seen this yet, but I would love to see like a 1 week or 24-hour launch in public. Like, hey, I'm launching my game on Saturday. Join me tonight at 7 for the dev diary. Join me, tomorrow at 3 p.m. for the reveal trailer. We have a post going on Bleeding Cool, Saturday morning at 8. I think it's something that especially social feeds like Threads and Blue Skies that are very receptive to indie developers, something you could have a lot of fun with. Again, find festivals. If you can't find one that fits, make one. Contact some other indie developers and just make up, a theme. Create, a banner. If you've got the bandwidth, set up a stream or create a YouTube video and promote it out. And there's some links here to some fun ones. And for Steam, especially, we're all aware of the Next Fest, but they also have like some pretty fun themed festivals. So you should go to this link often. Bullet Fest is coming up, Train Fest, survival and crafting. They've got some really fun ones that they're planning. But again, if you can't find one that makes sense in your launch window, just make one up. Something that I feel really strongly is that fortunes are made in dev diary videos. This is such a great opportunity for you to showcase who you are, your personality, why you're so passionate about games, why you're so passionate about, this genre or this specific mechanic. It really, sort of endears you to your audience, makes them want to know more. And I don't think we see near enough of them, and they're pretty easy to make. A lot lighter lifting actually than creating a trailer because you're using your gameplay video and then your voiceover to drive most of the content. Don't be excited anywhere; it's just overused. Find some better words. There are no overnight successes, same as we saw with TJ. Even some indie games you see them might look like they've sort of exploded onto the scene. There's usually a pretty long process involved beforehand. So again, don't wait. If you need some marketing partners, reach out. It's free to talk to people. Months or even a year, from your launch, get a sense of what you'll need and when, how much it'll cost. You only get to launch once, so make it count. I would love to see some more team ups in the community and would love to be able to kind of help make that happen. I see a lot of community, I see a lot of independent developers supporting each other, whether it's likes or reposts or just kind of, helping participate in their social and their programs. But would love to see some more collaboration and coordination. Like, hey, we're going to present, three new indie studios and games over the next 3 days. Come back here at 3 o'clock, and you're going to see some great stuff. Or maybe, pulling some games together, as we mentioned, in a festival, or even, pulling some game ideas together and creating, a larger game, maybe from a small team of smaller devs versus a solo dev. And then one secret I wanted to give you from Nintendo is when I used to work with them, they obviously, Nintendo's very good about promoting their products into the launch day. But what some people might know is that they also have a plan called a plus up plan that is as comprehensive and sometimes the same budget that extends after the launch date, more trailers, more public relations. And so the launch date is really important, but everything that comes after that is important as well. So I just thought that was really interesting. They put almost equal weight and budget to, your post-launch plan as your launch plan. And then, as I mentioned, don't wait. It's free to talk to any marketers out there. There's a ton of them. Happy to talk with people. Happy to make recommendations. But if you did wait until the last minute, then hopefully these tips will help. Thank you and good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. That was a really informative, quick presentation. Um, I have some questions prepared,
Yeah.
but audience members, if you have questions, I would love to hear them. It looks like we've got one in the chat already. Jess is wondering, for things like dev diaries, building in public, do you have any tips for getting over perfectionism, the anxiety around people seeing the unfinished project? Great question, Jess.
Yeah, I think what I've done in the past is, just try to get the developer to the first one. Like, we don't have to show it to anybody. It does become easier over time. Like, you do find more what works for you, or, what works for an audience. But I think at the end of the day, you've got to find, some way to put yourself out there, and that's for any art or craft. But I think especially for video games, because of the, just a lot of all the noise out there and all the competition, it's extremely important. And maybe you do a couple of different ones and share them around to some friends, close colleagues or peers, and get some feedback. Do you like A? Do you like B? And then kind of let that, direct, how you ultimately create the finished piece.
We'll let people think, and I will ask, um, what do you think one of the most interesting or positive marketing trends you see these days is?
Um, well, I hope it's going to be more dev diary videos. You do see quite a few, but you tend to see it from some larger studios and publishers. I would love to see more from smaller and independent developers. But I think certainly just video, I think, continues to be such an important way to communicate to people. And I think that even just a couple of years ago, everyone thought you needed a good reveal trailer and a launch trailer. But if you look at the playlists and the YouTube libraries for games that like just pick one that you like and go to their YouTube channel, they probably have 10 or 12. I think probably a good measure is one per month. Whether you're looking at characters or story development or weapons, however you want to talk about different elements of your game. But yeah, I think video just continues to be one of the most important aspects of marketing, and probably a lot more video than you're considering right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My next question for you is, what can someone at an indie studio who is thinking about reaching out to a marketer do to help that marketer help them?
Yeah, I think just again going back to the hook, like what is it that you really want people to feel or to understand or to experience, playing your game. That's way more important than a feature list or a game title. And certainly how much runway you have, what your budget is. And then, maybe what platforms you're already most comfortable on. I tend to operate a lot more on Threads and Blue Sky because just I just find more content there for me. And I feel like if you're an indie dev and you're the same, I feel like we're gonna have better success there because you already come to the table with some fluency on what you like there and what trends there, and then we can create content together or go and find some of these third parties operating in those spaces to get them to talk about your game.
Awesome. We've got another question in the chat. Uh, Sean, can you talk more about the press release journey? What happens after a press release gets sent to inbox at gamespress.com? How do you get attention on your material? Great question.
Yeah, GamesPress is really quick. I've seen things pop up in an hour or two. They do have some rules, so be sure to check their website. They prefer Word documents versus PDFs, and they want to attach assets instead of having them embedded. But yeah, it's and GamesPress certainly provides some visibility, but I think the real power of it is that then you have like your one link that you can share, anywhere. And whether it's press or creators, we even use press releases to brief our creators because everything is in one place, and they love it as well because we've usually gone through the process of synthesizing it and making it, digestible in one or two pages versus like a volume of information that you would want a creator to talk about. So yeah, I think its magic is it looks great. It's great layout. All the elements are there. You can download things easily, and then you have that one URL that you can put on social and your website. You can send out to other people, and it's comes a touch point for you.
Thank you so much. Another question I've got is uh, let's say that someone in our audience wants to become a marketer or start a PR company themselves. What's some advice you would offer them to have some of the success that you've had?
Oh wow, that's a big question. So I can talk a little bit about how I got into the business. I wanted to work for, one of the largest PR agencies called Golan. I was in Texas at the time, but I was doing some new business pitching in Los Angeles. And came across someone at the Los Angeles office said they were working on Nintendo, and I was like, "What?" Okay. And so, I got back and pretty much pestered my boss and leadership until a position opened up and they let me apply for it. And then I sort of got to work with Nintendo in LA and then moved to Activision from there. And then the PR team at Nintendo actually left and started their own agency, and so I joined them there at Zebra Partners. But I think there's a lot of larger agencies like Zebra and 47 and Golan that work on very big games and very big brands, and it's a really great place to learn. And then I think from there, just whatever speaks to you. For me, it was Activision and Guitar Hero, and that led into, to some other directions. But yeah, I think, going to a place where you can learn, there's a lot of really great teachers is probably everything, trying to break into a business like this.
Thank you so much. I think maybe you mentioned some of them. My next question is, can you tell us about a favorite marketing campaign you've worked on, and what was your favorite thing about it?
Yeah, I saw that on the potential list of questions, and I absolutely have an answer, and that is Tetris's 30th anniversary. That was so much fun because I mean the brand is just loved all over the world. We had 20 meetups in cities all over the world. We sent them merch. We sent them brand new stuff that wasn't even on the market yet. They posted all over the place on social media. We found some kids in I think Philadelphia that wanted to put Tetris on a skyscraper, and we helped make that happen. And it was covered on ABC News and some other places. And then the creators of Tetris um, wanted to go to E3 to announce a new game, and we hired an a cappella choir to follow them around singing the theme song everywhere they went. And that was covered on Mashable and other places, and that was a lot of fun. But obviously, you know, with a brand like that that's so recognized and so beloved, that opens a lot of doors, and you can have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, that was definitely my favorite campaign to work on.
It sounds like it was a really exciting creative project too. Very
Yeah.
cool.
And it was really amazing talking to those developers too. The originals that created it, Hank and Alexei, how it started in the Soviet Union and how they felt like how it could grow, and how, how they took it to different markets, and, obviously did the big deal with Nintendo and Game Boy, but then, that was really just the beginning, not its biggest hit. So yeah, it was a really great learning experience as well.
Got another question in the chat. Awesome. I've primarily seen two kinds of press kits across game developers, the Google Drive collection of assets and Rami Ismail's press kit. Do you have a recommendation on what to use there? Is there an audience for press kits beyond press these days? Great
Yeah,
question.
great question. I love Rami's press kit. I've used it in the past, and I know journalists love it as well. They've mentioned that it always everything's always in the same place when whatever the game is or the publisher, and so press can utilize it. Um, I'm not a fan of the Google Drive links. However, I will admit that we use it quite a bit because a lot of times assets come really late. And we have to get them out quickly. But we usually use that just with a handful of press that we seed things early, and so they're kind of used to that, and we can kind of point them to the specific ones that we want them to focus on, and then we can actually label the Google Drive folder what the embargo is so that it's very clear and repeated. But again, I really like the way Games Press pulls it all together. And it really kind of takes your press release and makes it into a press kit because it has, the downloadable video, links to YouTube, downloadable screenshots, and so in a really, nice visual format. So that's probably my preferred right now.
Awesome. Thank you. My next question is, how do you find out who else other than yourself is interested in playing your game?
Yeah. Right now, I think the best way to go about that is to figure out, what are the genres or games or experiences that are kind of around yours, and then talk about it in those terms. I think some developers are hesitant to do that because they don't want to mention other games, but I think it's important, especially if it's something that we all know and play, like Slay the Spire. And you can say it's like, Total War meets Slay the Spire, or, however you put the genres together to create something new and to differentiate your product. I think that's important. I think that's a really good strategy.
Thank you so much.
And
Um,
again, a plug for Sully Gnome. I've actually discovered new games I wasn't aware of because I was doing research on, maybe another isometric ARPG game, and saw, a game that a couple of the other ARPG creators were playing that I hadn't heard of before. So yeah, I can't say enough about Sully Gnome. I think it's a really incredible resource. I hope it stays free.
Definitely. Um, how about what criteria do you factor in when deciding which industry events to attend, and how can independent game developers evaluate which events will bring them a return on their investment?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I think the answer is to just go down the list. We had a client that found sort of an indie alley that wasn't publicized, and found it just by contacting the creators and asking them, what sort of opportunities you have for independent creators. Yeah, and I think these days, I mean, since E3 has gone away and Summer Games Fest, takes up so much of the interest and conversation, during June. But it's very expensive to get into. I think, if you can't find a showcase or an event that is literally, your genre, I honestly would just look like the couple of months around, your game launch, or when you really need an uptick in wish lists or views, and contact all of them and see, if they have, if they have anything they're offering in terms of space or in terms of, visibility for indie makers and see what's out there.
Awesome. Um, Maybe another big question, but our marketing efforts don't always succeed, even if we do our best. So, in your opinion, how do we fail with dignity?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure how to well, I think the best way to fail with dignity is just to figure out what didn't work, and move on, and also be honest and realistic about what didn't work, and don't discount it because it might work in the future for a different time period or maybe connected to a different event. But I think the best thing to do is to, analyze, don't over-index, but analyze, what went wrong and what, contributed to that, and then figure out very quickly, how to pivot and what the next step is.
Thank you so much. We got another one in the chat. I have a comment. Don't look at it as failure. Look at it as a learning experience. Great point, does. And our next question from the chat is, what's a reasonable amount of time for game developers to spend on community engagement across social media and Reddit on a weekly basis during various stages of development? Awesome question.
Yeah, I think probably a lot more than you're considering. I think as long as the content is good, then there is an audience for it and you should share it. And that content could be a small win. It could be someone on your team got married or got a new high score or, I feel like there's a lot of interest, fortunately, in, how we make games and who makes games. And I think, like, yeah, whatever you're considering, if you just text it to your friend group, if it's appropriate to be public, it's not secret or something, consider, dropping that into Discord. If you, woke up and had a thought in the middle of the night that you jotted down that you thought was maybe a hook that you might pursue or maybe a gameplay mechanic that you might try to build or something. I think that all goes back into, build in public, talk to your community. And I think you can kind of tell if people are tuning out a little bit if you start oversharing. But I feel like our challenge, for most of our, especially our independent developers, is getting them to talk more. So if you're an independent game developer and you're looking at, how often you should engage Discord, I think probably a lot more than you're thinking.
I think that leads really well into another one of my questions, which is, what is one major mistake that you see people making often in their marketing efforts?
Um, Gosh, that's a tough one. I think it's so different from project to project, but um, I have seen maybe a mismatch on scope for trailers for some games. Like I said before, a lot of games can sell themselves, and you can sell your game, with some voiceover and with some really great gameplay footage, and maybe longer segments or shorter segments, depending on what works for the game. But yeah, I have seen probably maybe a false analogy that the more you spend on your trailer, the more that you'll get back, and I don't think that's true. I think probably the number of trailers and the frequency, or not just trailers, the number of videos and the frequency you put out, and the number of platforms that you're involved in, and the number of press that you send it to, matter a lot more than what you're actually spending on your trailer.
Good point. Like casting a wide net is important.
Yeah. And yeah, I've seen quite a few trailers that were just like overkill. And then you watch it and you're like, I have no idea how you play this game or where I'm supposed to get it. Like they focused too much on the aesthetics and the production values. And I think, yeah, it can go, that's where it can really go awry.
Awesome. Thanks for that input. Um, how about shifting gears a little bit? Do you have any tips for keeping your sanity while running a small business?
I wish. Yeah, I have I've tried to be more focused on my health this year because I have a tendency to wake up, sometimes very early and just open up the laptop and start working. So in that health journey, one thing that I've done that has helped a lot is I've set an alarm for the last 5 minutes of every hour that I'm working to just remind me to get up and walk around, go get a glass of water, do something other than work. It's a little embarrassing to admit that I need that, but I think it doesn't end up happening every hour. Sometimes I snooze it or skip to the next one, but I think, reminders throughout the day have been helpful for me. And I can imagine for indie developers as well, especially in crunch time, I think put it make it a nuisance, like I have to actually, turn it up, turn it off, turn the alarm off. So, or put it on your calendar.
I think that's a really good tip. I have a sticker on my computer that says breakfast before emails, and that has really helped a
Oh,
lot.
I like that. I like that. Yeah.
Uh, Awesome. That's a great tip. Thank you so much. Um, kind
And one thing I will say is that and I know that you can do it because I know other people that are better at than I am and some people who refuse to work before a certain time in the morning like 9 a.m. And so they go to the gym or they do other stuff or they make sure that they always log off at a certain time, for that and that we should, head in that direction, focus on that. Some of us are better at it than others.
Definitely. I think those kind of things have really made a big difference in my life, and it sounds like they have in yours as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, do you have any tips or one good tip at least for succeeding in games at large? Anything for game developers in general?
Um, I think like approach it more as a craft than um just building something. And I think making sure that you're focusing as much on the art as the data. Remember, data is old. Data is what people are playing or what they were playing or saying, but like focusing on the art side I think pushes you more to think about, okay, where are we headed, with this genre or as an industry? I think that's really important.
Awesome. Another probably challenging question is, do you have any advice for people who are struggling in the games industry economically right now? It's been a really tough time for everybody. So you've been in it for a long time. Anything that you have to say to younger game developers?
Um, I think I mean it is a tough time. And I'm in a completely different space because I'm not a developer. I'm on the marketing side of it, and there are always RFPs floating around. There's, people that I can reach out to and say, you have a launch coming up, can I help? Versus game development, you're investing your time and your money, into an idea, and I have so much respect for that, and so glad I'm in a position to be able to help that. But yeah, I don't know if I have any tips for that. The one
Totally.
the one thing that I would say is that a few times in my career, I tried to walk away from this, and it led me right right back. And so, there we are,
Hmm.
and so I think I would probably, if you're at a position where you just launched a game and you're not sure what's next, or there was a layoff or something, if you have the means or can, I think exploring another field or something else to do is really healthy. It gave me perspective. I feel like it gave me more perspective and some better insights when I came back to games. And I ended up finding trying to look at other things, I ended up finding that what I really loved about those other things was the PR that was happening there, or things that were sort of games or gamified. And so, kind of brought me back here. But yeah, I think if you can, maybe take a break,
Hmm.
try something very different, and then come back to it. And then I think the other thing I'll say is that I have noticed that, a lot of independent developers, they really nail their hit on like their second or third title. So don't give up on the first one. And don't put everything into the first one. Like, I think there's a lot to be said for some of the suggestions, recommendations, and quotes that you see that talk about, just ship a game, just, get it out there. I think there's a lot to be said for that. And then, and working toward, number two and number three.
Awesome. I think those are some really good points. Um, Coming to some of the almost the end of our questions now. So if anybody in the audience has more, be sure you hit them in the chat or raise your hand. If there's one thing that you hope the people in our audience or watching the recording later get out of today's conversation, what would it be?
I think collaboration, with other, people in your space, or, with someone like me, or, uh, yeah, collaborate, reach out, talk to people. You don't have to give up your secret sauce or, the secret game idea that you have. But yeah, I think especially now, and we're all, in different parts of the world and different time zones and stuff. I think, collaborate, whether it's through programs like this or, a Discord that you're in, and just reaching out to a name you've seen a few dozen times, but you've never like interacted with them, but obviously you like the same game or the same, developer or whatever. I think, yeah, collaborate.
Awesome tip. Next, I want to know what are your favorite single or favorites multiple games?
Oh, it's definitely gonna be multiple. I thought about this all last night when I saw the sample question. So I will say that I love strategy games and open world games. I think I will always be playing Cyberpunk and Skyrim and Red Dead Redemption on different platforms in different ways. I think I've had a Civilization game playing or running on a platform literally since I left college, on something like whatever the new one is, I'll play. Right now I'm still playing a lot of Helldivers. I have some friends, kind of in my older Gen X demographic that it works really well. It's co-op, there's some short bursts, it's funny, it's crazy. And I have like three different friend groups that we play in that. But my all-time favorite is Titanfall 2. And every time they cancel the Titanfall 3, which is I think has been like five times now, it's been really upsetting.
Been there. My next question for you is what are you excited about in the future?
Um, I am excited that there is now more and more focus on independent developers and solo developers and smaller developers. I think angel investors and publishers and even people like Sony are understanding and paying attention, and they have given space for independent games for a long time. But I think now we're at a point to where we're really going to see some major investments. Because some of the quote tried and true genres we've seen recently haven't worked, and even some franchises haven't worked. And I think that there is a very exciting and healthy conversation around getting independent developers with new ideas, fresh ideas, more investment, and more incubator type things to bring new IP to market.
Awesome. We got one more question in the chat. Do you recommend pulling trailer clips from Beautiful Corner or Vertical Slice Development, or is a trailer an entirely custom piece of work in your opinion? Where do things fall with these marketing materials when publishers and investors want to get to playable builds before entertaining funding conversations?
So can you repeat that? I think I got lost.
Yeah. Do you recommend pulling trailer clips from Beautiful Corner or Vertical Slice Development, or is the trailer an entirely custom piece of work in your opinion? And then I think a second question is where do things fall with these marketing materials when publishers and investors want to get to playable builds before entertaining funding conversations?
Yeah, so great question on the trailers. I think Obviously a big part of building in public is showing early versions, but I think polish is important. You want to put your best foot forward and make sure that as much of your dream that is being realized. Get the game to a point to where you feel like it has that level of polish, even though it might be early, because in some cases it lives forever. It might be reposted someplace or something. And it might not be the representation that you want for the game, later on. We typically get gameplay footage to work with, as a game or as an update is being completed. And so it usually is, for us from a marketing standpoint, it usually is already has the polish and is ready for the public. But I can imagine, being a smaller, newer developer, and you do want to build in public, you do want to share things. I think take that risk, but just kind of weigh that with, trying to get as much polish on it as you can.
Awesome.
And then the second part of the question was about investment, or
Yeah, where do you fall with these marketing materials when publishers and investors want to get to playable builds before entertaining funding conversations?
sure. I think that's going to change, honestly. I think that angel investors and publishers are going to want to get in much earlier, than they have been in the past, so that they can provide key investment at some of those key milestones. Or maybe coach them to pivot the game in a direction that makes sense, but maybe they just didn't have the funding for before, or the infrastructure. So yeah, I think they're gonna start looking at it earlier.
Thank you all for being here. You've been a fabulous audience. Thank you, Sean, for sharing all of your experience and knowledge with us. That has been a true delight. And I hope that we all stay in touch and to see the awesome games that are coming out soon.
Yeah,
Have a fabulous rest of your Saturday, everybody.
yeah. Good luck out there. Thank you so much, everybody.